Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back. So, new archetype was released or revealed yesterday and it's up on Yugioh Pro, so let's try it out. It's a very interesting archetype. It's a good archetype, especially for this particular wave. I think we can expect more support, who knows, but there's definitely potential. I kinda feel that the archetype has a lot of similarities with like Weather Painter spellbooks, and magical muskets, if that makes sense. Well, it makes sense because of the field. I mean, as you probably already have seen, like I think the archetype counts more than 10 spells. Well, one of them being a continuous spell and one being a field spell. And all the other ones, if I'm not mistaken, are quick play. Now, what's the gimmick of the deck? The gimmick of the deck is that you kind of need to have the field spell up as soon as possible. That's, I guess, priority number one, because the field spell states two things. First of all, it lets you activate quick play spells, from the Mysterune, this new archetype, during your opponent's turn. So again, here in this case, kind of triggering your musket monsters as well, which is fantastic. And two, and that's the biggest gimmick, is that once per turn, during both players' turns, as soon as you activate a quick play spell card, a Mysterune quick play spell card, after that activation, and it resolves, you can use its second effect, and that's basically a Pot of Avarice effect. So targeting those quick plays, the archetype quick play spells, send them back to the bottom of the deck from your graveyard, and draw the amount of cards the same or equal to the amount you send back to the deck. So let's say if you send back like 2, you draw 2. That's once per turn, by the way. So again, it kind of feels the same way as Weather Painters, spellbooks, But it's quite ridiculous if you think about it. And the catch, well, I was about to say the catch, but it's not really the case. All of the quick play spells are probably main deckable. One of them, I feel the best one, is their Searcher, which, it's a quick play spell that states search any other, Mysterune card, and probably now it's one of those other spells, right? Most of the time it's either the field spell, because again, you want to have that phase up as soon as possible, and two, the other quick play spells. One quick play spell is basically an impermanence, so an effect negator. They have a Misco Space Typhoon, they have a Monster Destroyer, Smashing Ground, or whatever, right? One that destroys an opponent's monster, and the list goes on. So it's actually quite good, but, and that's the catch of the archetype, I guess the fact that the archetype has so many pluses, potential ways to plus, Konami needs to give them like somewhat of a restriction, and the biggest restriction they got is that as soon as you use the Mysterune, at least their quick play spells, you have to skip your next battle phase. So as soon as you want to enter your battle phase, you declare your battle phase, you need to skip that one. And that's a bummer. It's like a soul exchange, right? You have to sacrifice your battle phase, and that's something that could bite you later in the game, because again, you can't attack your opponent's monsters. Sure, I guess it kind of feels okay, because as you saw, I mean, the thing is that field spell works once per turn. So like if you activate a quick play spell, send back 2, let's say, from your graveyard back to the bottom of the deck, draw 2, like giving you potential opportunities to draw hand traps, and again, prevent your opponent from playing the game. And as you saw here, Magical Muskets is a super conservative deck. It's a super control based deck. So I mean, sacrificing your battle phase is not the worst, but I mean, it's something that you sometimes might forget. Same, with the Elemental Lords, Molding Glacia and so on. So again, establishing my board. I mean, the thing is, with Max, you can establish your board of Magical Muskets, and if your opponent has multiple spells, multiple back rows, again, because the game is somewhat slow, because again, your deck is super grindy, you can again capitalize on that, and depending on how many cards your opponent controls, either monsters or spell and traps, you can, use Max and special summon from the deck or search from the deck. So again, that again adds up those multiple pluses you might be getting from, Mysterune archetype, right? So the first one that I activated was the Search spell, which is basically an Engage, right? Engage for the archetype. Search the field spell. They have 2 fusions. The fusions are fine. One level 3, one level 4, and that's something, well, another gimmick for the archetype is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, all the quick play spells have their own effect. Mystical Space Typhoon, Forbidden Chalice, Monster Destroyer, and so on. But they all, I think, have at least a second effect. All the same effect is that you can like instant fusion a fusion from your extra deck, or a fusion from the archetype. And currently there's 2, a level 3 and a level 4. Their fusions are decent. The level 3, I guess, is probably the one, well, depends a little bit, but when she or he, this fusion hits the field, the level 3 one, you can search the archetype's continuous spell. And that's another gimmick, again, something I haven't mentioned yet, is, as you saw, is the archetype also has, at least all of their spells, most of their spells, have the beneficial effect that if you use it, let's say you search something or negate an opponent's monster effect or destroy something, your opponent has to banish X equal amount of cards from the top of his deck. So with this continuous spell as well, your opponent needs to add 1 extra, because again, you activated the quick play spell. So short set, it kind of F-overs your opponent's main deck as well. So I mean, if you could mill or banish multiple cards from the top of your opponent's deck, again, what happens here or already happened. I mean, you could nuke the potential Anaconda engine, right? Hitting the Destiny or Fusion Destiny Dasher or Celestial or something like that. So the gimmick behind that, it's actually pretty okay. You could, if the game goes really grindy, you could potentially let your opponent deck out using the strategy here behind it. But the biggest problem of the archetype is, the Phoenix Enforcer. I'm only running one, what is it called? I forgot the name, the trap that banishes up to 3 from your opponent's graveyard, right? And that's of course MVP against Enforcer or Phoenix Enforcer, but I think it's already in the graveyard, and it just keeps returning, even though it's like destroyed by battle, or you use cross domination to negate its effect. It will always trigger during the next turn, so I need that triple DD Crow as a trap card, but nope, this wasn't it. But I mean, you see the potential power with the hybrids, right? I'm sure there are more hybrids with this new archetype, but for me, this definitely stood out as something that has potential, right? What's the biggest choke point of the new archetype? It's probably the field spell. Again, all of their, most quick play spells, again, if you activate them, you have to skip your next battle phase. So that's something to keep in mind. But I mean, if your opponent cyclones the field spell, that's a bummer, because the field spell, it's like very similar to spellbooks, right? With spellbooks, every, draw phase or standby phase, you have to pick a spellbook from your graveyard, put it back to the bottom of the deck, draw one. Well, it's almost the same, but much better, because again, depending on how many fuel you have, how many quick play spells you have in your hand, and being able to activate them during both players' turns, you can keep recycling them, and send them back to the deck and draw an equal amount of cards, like 1, 2, or 3 maybe. Which is again quite ridiculous, but if your opponent can quickly deal with the field spell, then the engine loses a lot of power. And I'm only running one field spell because of the other level 4 fusion, if I'm not mistaken, has the capability to get back the archetype or any archetype spell that's not a quick play spell. So like the continuous spell or the field spell. So you can kind of get back the field spell. So I don't think there's a reason to run more field spells, because it could be a brick. Other than, Cosmic Cyclone, so yeah, that might be the reason why you maybe want to run another copy. Depends. But seeing that most decks are running, more Cosmic Cyclones, it might be, wise to indeed main deck a second copy. So going second, I mean, Magical Musketeers is a deck that can definitely go second. The build you just saw, I'm not running droplets, I'm running multiple chalice as well, plus of course the archetype has a lot of, very strong going second cards, a Mystical Space Typhoon, a Monster Negator, right, a chalice. So there's a lot of that, but something like, you know, Dark Ruler no more might be good as well, because of this. Like, normal summon your Musketeer and potentially Dark Ruler your opponent's board, that's strong, plus a potential follow-up play with Max, to, you know, either special summon multiple monsters from the deck or search, that's definitely strong. So I can, you know, try to get myself back in a duel, but again, the problem here is yeah, Destiny Hero, Phoenix Enforcer again, even though I do have the trap here in my hand, but I need to, well, the problem is that I need to banish more. I need to banish more cards from my opponent's graveyard. There's like the multiple Fog Blades, there is Dasher, well, Celestial, there is Phoenix Enforcer now, so there's more cards that I, you know, need to get banished, but I can only banish up to 3. First world problems, right? So here I'm somewhat conservative and should have kept the, yeah, indeed, at least, you know, during my opponent's turn, so I would have been able to use Dock, get something back from the graveyard, but Droplet says no, and here I'm eventually going to scoop it up because, let's face it, I'm not going to win this one. So last example, going first against Sword Soul. Yeah, the thing with Prosperity, okay, it kind of increases the consistency of the deck, but as you know, you can't draw cards during the same turn, so you can't capitalize on the potential beneficial draws of the field spell. Keep that in mind. So what I like to do is just, you know, activate the field spell and pass. Again, it gives me the opportunity to use the archetype, the new archetype's quick plays during my opponent's turn to potentially, you know, trigger my Muskets during the opponent's turn, right? And it depends. Now I have 2 in my hand. I believe one of them is a monster effect negator, and I believe the other one is the Destroyer, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, destroy 1. Now I could indeed use the field spell, send back, I have 2, so send back 2, draw 2. Maybe I could have waited a little bit because I have a third one in hand to, you know, maximize value, but I was like, maybe I want to keep it, because again, that's another potential spell or another card that, you know, could trigger Gaspar, and that kind of secures or could secure my victory in the next turn. And again, that's something that happens here. So I try to get, or should be getting, Dock to the field as well. Yep, there it is. So this should be my duel. I have the, what is it called? The Popper Desperado. Yeah, indeed. Plus the spell and the counter trap, right? Upstart, I'm not going to negate that. So this should indeed be my duel. So as a whole, this new archetype, it's definitely a fantastic start. It's definitely something solid. There's definitely, you know, more options, more hybrids, but it's quite scary how good this one is. And I mean, okay, the choke point is Cosmic Cyclone on the field spell, but if your opponent is able to, you know, use the beneficial effect of the field spell and draw multiple cards, it's very hard to stop that afterwards. Okay, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a card or like if you enjoyed the video. Lead them signing out. Peace.